FPL is officially back. The new game has launched. We can create our drafts for the new season, which is 1 month away. Today, I'm going to take you through some of those player prices and players I'm interested in. Most importantly, we're going to go through what my first draft looks like for FPL 2024-2025. What's up everyone, Harry here. Welcome back for another video, for the first video of the new FPL season. Bit of a break here on the channel and it is finally time. FPL has launched, the Euros are done. We have a month until the season starts. So welcome everyone, whether you are new to the channel, whether you are returning. FPL has officially launched. It is time to start building our drafts. Before we get into that draft, a little bit of housekeeping for the new season. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There will be a whole load of videos during preseason and then every single week during the season as well to get you the best rank and win your mini leagues. Make sure you've liked the video if you haven't already. 1,000 likes is always the aim on these videos. As always, we'll be looking to do our best to get the best rank we can going into the new season. Of course, the ranks we've had over the past few seasons have been fantastic, and it does give me a pretty good rank over the past 4 years as well. Second in the world is what Premier Fantasy Tools has me for average rank over the past 4 seasons. I'll do my best not to bang on about that during preseason as much as I can, but I appreciate you bearing with me while I do use that as a little bit of a selling point for the channel. But anyway, let's dive in. What we're most here to look at is the first draft. So in goal, we've got Sanchez of Chelsea. Both Chelsea goalkeepers have come in at 4.5 million. This is a little bit surprising. I thought they'd be up at 5 million. Now, Chelsea were pretty mixed last season, but we don't at the moment know exactly who's going to be first choice. Is it going to be Sanchez or is it going to be Petrovic? But they are both priced at 4.5 million. And despite the Manchester City fixture in game week 1, the early Chelsea fixtures are really nice from game week 2 onwards. So I do think this is probably the way I'd go. The other goalkeepers I quite like are Dean Henderson at Crystal Palace, potentially opting for him, but the fixtures for Crystal Palace are not quite as good, but they are probably a slightly better team. We'll be keeping an eye on Chelsea in pre-season, but I do think Sanchez at 4.5 million, who is currently predicted to be Chelsea's number 1. It could end up being Petrovic, but he is the same price. At the moment, we don't have any clear 4.0 million goalkeepers that we should be picking at the moment. I've gone with Turner of Nottingham Forest just because he played a decent amount of minutes for Nottingham Forest last year, but with Sells and actually Turner's performances last year, I don't expect him to be that reliable a starter. That is going to be one of the positions we'll keep an eye on during preseason to see whether a 4.0 million goalkeeper does arise, like Turner, like Areola, or like Dubravka that we had at points during last season. So Sanchez, set and forget, 4.5 million goalkeeper. Turner as a backup, just sit on the bench most weeks. Moving into defense, I have spent the money on Trent Alexander-Arnold. 7 million for Trent does feel like a lot, but it is a price decrease from what we've seen over the past few seasons for him. The other thing for me is Liverpool's opening fixtures are absolutely amazing. They are better than any other team we've got. Trent might even be playing in midfield under the new Arne Slot Liverpool. Again, we'll keep an eye on pre-season for that. But I do think they will hit the ground running, and I do think 7 million is a decent price for him with the attacking threat he's got and how good the opening fixtures are. Then you will have seen, if you've been keeping up to date with a lot of the prices that we've had announced, there are some fantastic 4.5 million options. You've got Crystal Palace, you've got Newcastle, you've got Everton, you've got Aston Villa, you've got Brighton, you've got Brentford. There are some fantastic 4.5 million defensive options. The ones that I've gone with at the moment is Dan Burn of Newcastle. Botman, Livramento and Lewis Hall are all 4.5 million as well. So if we get to the start of the season and we're not thinking that Burn's going to start, I can swap to a Livramento, I can swap to a Lewis Hall. Whoever we expect to play at that left back spot for Newcastle is the one that I'd go with here. But I think because of Botman's injury, Burn can either play centre back or left back, so it feels like the most nailed for them at the moment. Next up is I've gone with Mykolenko. 4.5 million was a surprise given that we had Tarkowski and Branthwaite both coming at 5 million, along with Jordan Pickford as well in at 5 million. So 4.5 for Mykolenko with some decent opening fixtures and some attacking threat up that left-hand side, I think is a really nice buy. Finally, we've opted for Konsa of Aston Villa. Again, Aston Villa do have Champions League, but very solid to be able to have a 4.5 million defender from Aston Villa. So my plan in this defense would be to play Trent Alexander-Arnold and probably rotate those three. The 4.0 option we've got at the moment is Harwood Bellis of Southampton. He was one of the early price announcements that we've got. Charlie Taylor is also 4.0 now at Southampton as well. There's no real standout 4.0 option, but we might get some injuries during preseason that might force a 4.0 million option into our thinking. At the moment, it is Haaland with Bellis, but he can sit on my bench, probably third sub for me every single week. Now, moving into midfield. This is a little bit different to how I think maybe some of you are building your drafts at the moment. There is no Saka, there is no Foden, and there is no Cole Palmer. I think they are very good options, but I think at their prices, they are not essential at the moment. So let me talk you through what I've done with this draft. To start off, it's a 3-4-3 draft. So we do have a 4.5 million option. The 4.5 million option I've gone with at the moment is Luongo at Ipswich. He played 43 games for them last season, scoring 3 goals. Again, he's one who's going to get lots of appearance points, but maybe not that many goals or assists. You could look at someone like Modder at Brighton, who's maybe less certain for minutes, but might have a little bit more attacking threat when he does get on the pitch. In terms of those 4 starting midfielders that we've got, first up is Nkunku of Chelsea. Again, Manchester City at home on the opening day isn't perfect, but after that, the fixtures are really good. Quite why he's a 6.5 million midfielder, I don't know. Feels like one of the big underprices going into this season. If we see him start a lot of games in pre-season, then he is a lock in my team. It feels like so underpriced for what he has the ability to do if he's going to be starting for Chelsea every week. Yes, I'd love Cole Palmer, but 4 million saving on Nkunku feels like a great option. Next up is Eze at Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace finished the season so well. Without Elise there, you might think they're a little bit weaker going forward, but they're going to have all pre-season to prepare for life without Elise. It also means that Eze will be on penalties. At the end of last season, we had a little bit of doubt about whether it was going to be Elise or Eze on penalties. It looks like we know now it will be Eze, and he should be on all penalties as well. Now, then we've gone Anthony Gordon. The opening 5 fixtures for Newcastle are incredible. They start off with Southampton at home on the opening day as well, which is great. 7.5 million. When you look at some of the other prices, like 10.5 for Palmer, like 10 for Saka, they are great options, but 7.5 for Gordon feels like an absolute steal, and I'm very happy with him as my second of a triple up on Newcastle. The only team I have a triple up in this draft is Newcastle. And the final midfielder, again, is Mo Salah. I have gone with Trent and Salah. The opening fixtures for Liverpool just look too good to go and turn it down. If we knew someone like a Darwin, like a Luis Diaz was nailed at the moment, maybe I'd have a look at them. But also with Gakpo and Jota, it feels a little bit difficult. And I do like Salah for a potential captain in match day 1 as well. So that is the 4-man midfield with the cheap option. And up front, I have got Erling Haaland. That is going to be the big talking point with this draft. And we'll go through what a draft would look like if I didn't go with Erling Haaland at the moment. Now, he's had all of pre-season sort of to train. He's not had any European commitment. Ipswich at home in match day 2, in game week 2. So I'm still talking in Euros talk. In game week 2 for Haaland is going to be such a good captain. If I don't own him, I'd probably go with someone like Foden to try and cover that captaincy there. So I have gone with Haaland just because I think by the time the deadline comes, if I don't have him now, I'll probably want him. So I'm just going to start with him in the drafts, but we will talk about what I would do if I don't go with him. The bigger mission up front for me, though, is Ollie Watkins, and I can't build a draft that has Haaland and Watkins in it together. I have to pick one of the two. And the moment it's Haaland because of that captaincy. For me, Isak is, again, one of the most underpriced players in the game. 8.5 million. He'll be in so many people's teams, given the opening fixtures and, of course, not having any European commitment, having a full preseason with Newcastle as well. And the final option might be the single most underpriced player in FPL this year, and that is João Pedro. Now, last year under Robert De Zerbi, we didn't know fully whether he was going to be nailed to start for them or not, but 5.5 million with a new manager, with no Europe as well. I can't really look past that. Despite a couple of difficult fixtures, they've got Arsenal and Man United in their first 3, Everton away on the opening day as well, but I'm still pretty happy with him. 5.5 million just looks pretty good, and I can't feel like in my first draft, it's a great enabler if I want Salah, Haaland, and Trent, which I've got in here at the moment. So, of course, the bigger missions here are going to be Watkins, it's going to be Foden, Saka, and Palmer, all of which are good options, and we'll talk about potentially buying them and what I do and how I'd fit them in if I didn't have Haaland. But this would be a 3-4-3 draft. I'd start Trent, Burn, and then either Konza or Mikalenko in game week 1, Salah, Gordon, Eze, and then Nkunku in my midfield with Haaland, Isak, and João Pedro as my 3 forwards in here. So, just to have a little bit of a flick around and particularly answer the question, which I know will be in the comments of, Harry, why have you got Haaland in your team? He's not worth 15 million, which I do agree with to some extent, but it is the captaincy for me more than anything. That outside of Haaland, there's not loads of players I trust for captaincy. Now, if you don't go with Haaland, you can have a Saka, a Palmer, a Foden, a Salah, and you can rotate between a couple of those. But I do think I like the reliability of Haaland for captain, especially with no sort of fixtures for him over any of the summer going into the start of the season. I think he's a nice option. Now, just to quickly do what I would do if I went with no Haaland, and I've built drafts that don't have Haaland in. for me, it's quite straightforward. Haaland would go, and the obvious forward that we don't have in here is Ollie Watkins. So he would be the one that would come in. That would save 6 million. Now, Watkins did actually outscore Haaland in FPL last season. Now, Haaland didn't play as many minutes, but Watkins is a fantastic buy, and he's the real one that I don't have. Now, this leaves 6 million in the bank, and that allows me to upgrade my 4.5 million midfielder to basically any of Foden, Palmer, and Saka. I have 10.5, as you can see there, and I could buy any of them into my team that I wanted to. So if we just go and put it in as Phil Foden, it leaves me 1 million in the bank, but it could be any of those three, as I say. So I'm going to leave that 1 million in the bank there, and that would basically be the swap. Now, this gives me a front 8, but what it would allow me to do, for example, is I wouldn't have to play Nkunku in game week 1 when he plays City. I wouldn't have to play him. João Pedro in game week 3 when he plays Arsenal. I wouldn't have to play him. So I would be able to rotate my front 8 a little bit better around the fixtures. Now, this is something that looks good on paper. It doesn't always work exactly in practice as much as we'd want it to. So at the moment, I've gone with the power sort of attack, which has Salah and it has Haaland in at the moment, because it's much easier to me to downgrade from them to try and stretch up to Haaland if I did want him in game week 2 in that Ipswich fixture. As I said, if I decided to sell Haaland to Watkins would definitely be the move that I would do, and I would upgrade my 4.5 million midfielder that I've got at the moment to one of Foden, Saka, or Palmer, and the rest would pretty much stay the same. Of course, if I went with Foden, it would leave 1 million in the bank, so I could potentially do an upgrade elsewhere, but generally, that is the combination that I'm going with, of Haaland and a 4.5 million midfielder put on the bench, or you go Watkins and you go with a Foden, and then it allows you to rotate your front 8 at the moment. But this is my attempt at a first draft. Let me know what you think. Are you going Haaland or are you going no Haaland? Of course, I know there'll be lots of questions in the comment section about the new rules, the potential changes, the 5 role transfers that we can potentially do, the mystery chip, the update to bonus points as well, all of that. There will be a video out on Friday for you where I will cover all of those things now that the game has launched, but draft comes first, and then Friday, the next video, we will be having a look at those potential rule changes, what it means for picking our drafts. We'll also talk about biggest mistakes. We'll talk about tips. We'll rate your drafts. We'll have updated drafts. We'll have everything between now and the game week 1 deadline. So if you are new around here, please do subscribe to the channel. 1,000 likes is the aim. It is so good to be back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again very soon.